Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Shaka Talem, and I currently serve as the ASUC president. Once you've started looking for apartments in Berkeley, you need to know how to talk to landlords and secure a unit. Here to discuss how to secure a unit and a lease is Niloo Nouri, the Director of Marketing and Property Management for Panoramic Interests in Berkeley.
Hi, it's a pleasure being here.
Pleasure is ours. Let's get straight into it. As you know, it's pretty stressful to find housing here at Cal. And since so many students are looking for housing, landlords receive a lot of messages. What are some tips you have for students when communicating to landlords?
Good question. I think one of the key things is to make sure that you contact them in all different modes. So make a phone call if you're interested in an apartment, also send an email. It's very important to be very cordial and polite, and but it's, I think, very important to make sure that you apply early, look early enough in the year, and I would say that would be the December of the prior year or January of the year that you're going to start for school at fall.
Okay.
So at least I would say 8 to 10 months prior, have a feeling for where you want to apply for. Once you do, send an email, send a text, apply online, complete your application, so that people know that you're interested and serious.
Great, thank you so much. Due to the pandemic, many landlords aren't doing in-person visits. How should a student trust a landlord that isn't willing to meet in person?
Well, I think honestly the past, I would say 6 to 8 weeks, actual tours have started again. But if for some reason there is not an actual tour available, I would definitely, see if you can get a virtual tour, but also, again, thanks to technology, FaceTime, Zoom. But I urge you to definitely meet your landlord, know what they look like, get a feel for their type of personality. This is the best way to make sure that this is not a scam. The listing you're seeing, there's actually a real person attached to that listing. So I know in many cases, even at the height of the pandemic, I still did FaceTime with people. I still walked them through the unit as much as I could. And some places have an actual, like a virtual walkthrough where they take you to a 3D Matterport. But all of these help you to, A, ensure it's not a scam, B, really get a feel for the landlord, the building, the type of community you're entering, because all of those are pretty important.
So say I'm looking at an apartment to potentially rent. What are some things I should potentially look out for?
Great question. As you know, Berkeley has a very wide variety of types of buildings, from very, very old to brand new. And each of them come with their own set of challenges. But things to look out for is, what is the age of the building? How old is it? If it's an older building, I urge you to make sure you check for odors, mold, ensure that the sprinklers are tested. You can ask whether or not the fire testing has been done in the last 5 years. Look out for, ensure there's some mechanism for carbon monoxide detection, and check for emergency exits. Indication of a building that's been kept well is, do the emergency exit lights work? If there is an elevator, make sure that the permit on the elevator is up to date. All these will give you a good feeling of whether or not these buildings have been kept well. Go through the emergency exit, go through the back stairway, just get a feel for the building as much as you can. And sometimes just hang out in front of the building, and if someone who lives there, just ask them, how do you like your building? Is everything kept well? Is it clean? Run the pipes, run the toilet, see, this all gives you a feel. Does the piping work? How's the plumbing in the building?
If I found an apartment that I really like, how do I apply for a lease? Do you have any tips for students regarding things to look out for?
Depending on where you see the listing, if it's Craigslist, there's different instructions. If you go to some website for a building, it's different. But in general, if you're interested in a building, make sure you complete an application right away or submit a guest card right away. And one of my pet peeves is people apply but they don't complete it, they don't give full information, they mistype their phone number, they mistype their email. So make sure that everything is correct. There's a way to get back to you. And if there is an application and you're serious, complete the application right away. Don't leave out any information. All of that tells the landlord or the leasing agent that you're serious, that you're meticulous, that you really want the apartment. So that'll all go a long way to helping you procure your apartment of choice.
Awesome. Lastly, there's a question about how long should a lease last. Some students prefer a month-by-month lease, while landlords typically prefer a year-long lease. Do you have any input on that?
That's a little bit tough one because it's very difficult for students to sign up for a one-year lease because a lot of times summers they're not here. But on the other hand, you know, to be honest and fair to all the landlords, it's very difficult to re-rent an apartment for summertime or when there's 1 or 2 months break. So in general, the rule is that most leases are 12 months. Some places offer 9 to 10 month leases. Ask for whatever your choice is when you want your start date to be and your end deal ideally. And I would encourage you to work with your landlord on that. Many places require a 1-year lease to ensure everything's in order, but then either give you the option of subletting or allow you during your lease to stay on the lease but provide a key or your space to another student, as long as you're financially responsible for the unit.
Gotcha.
And that way, you know, the landlord is taken care of and you're taken care of.
Gotcha. Applying for a lease can be different for international students. So do you have any advice on how international students should apply for housing?
Yes, it's a little trickier when you're an international student to apply for a unit because most often you don't have a U.S. address, you don't have established credit in the U.S., and you don't have a guarantor or co-signer in the U.S. And all of those make it very difficult. If you're an international student that does have established credit here or you do have a U.S. address, then it's all fine. If you don't, there are a couple ways to go around that. One is a website called Obligo. It's a company that guarantees your lease for you for an extra maybe $20 a month. So you can use that type of service to guarantee or have a co-signer officially. That way the landlord is taken care of and the student gets the lease. If you are an international student though, be prepared to pay 2 or 3 times extra for security deposit because it is very difficult to go after a student if they don't pay. And to be able to secure that lease, many landlords require additional security deposit. That's another way to get around that because even their bank accounts or any financial statements are outside of the U.S. and so very difficult to screen any tenants that are international.
Well, Niloo, thank you so much for your time and for providing tips and advice for students in their housing search.
You're very welcome. I wish all the best to all our renters out there. I'm always around at Panoramic in case you need to contact me for more details or possible availabilities. I'd be happy to help and support the UC student body in any way possible in this crazy maze of rental universe at Berkeley. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.